and taking a step back and starting to notice where those threads of energetic attraction were in my life to different people, men, women, elderly people, younger people, because it almost always meant that there was something useful that would come from our connection. Hello, friend, and welcome to the Sex Upgraded podcast, a podcast for men all about sex, where we'll combine real, authentic, and down-to-earth conversations about sex, life, and relationships with some pretty wild personal stories and practical how-to episodes as well, with guest experts from around the world to help you have the most amazing sex life you can possibly have. My name is Taylor, and I'll be your host on this journey, and it's my goal with each episode to give you practical, actionable things you can start doing today to improve your sex life and your entire life, because a thriving sex life will help you thrive in all areas of your life. So let's begin today's episode by starting with a deep breath in through the nose into the belly together. Exhaling with an audible sigh. And let's get into today's episode. I'm joined here again with my friend John Handelman. Thanks for being here, John.
Thanks for having me again. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, today we have a really interesting story to share with you. Today I have a really interesting story to share with you about sexual energy and the difference between, we'll call it physical attraction and sexual energetic attraction. And it's a story about back when I was in Thailand and when I ended up having wild energetic sex with somebody I never would have imagined. And it's a trip. It's a trip. So if you've ever been curious about what sexual energy is, if you've ever been curious about how to feel that in your body, hopefully this story will answer some of those questions and give you a pretty wild experience just to think about as well.
I'm looking forward to hearing it, because when I think of the people I've been attracted to, or who I would say I feel sexual energy with, which I don't even know the difference between that and attraction.
Yeah.
I think of, I guess, people around my age who kind of, I don't know, look like me or a little shorter, just in conventional realms of attractiveness.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hear that. It seems like, just in not knowing anything about the story, that you step a bit out of that conventional realm.
Yeah. So real quick question to think about. Have you, or anybody listening, have you ever found somebody really physically attractive and then you get close to them or you talk with them and then you realize like, oh, there's nothing here? Yeah.
So for me, that's happened to me so many times. And it's happened where I've dated someone, and at the initial parts, I'm so attracted to them.
Yeah.
And then later on, I find that attraction really wanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into that.
Okay.
All right. So time traveling back a few years, I was living on this island called Koh Phangan in Thailand. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've heard a lot of different pronunciations. It's a small island in Thailand, and a lot of people have called it Tantra Island in the past because there's so many different Tantra workshops that happen there, at least pre-COVID. I'm not sure how it is right now. But back when I was there was a different Tantra training every single day, like maybe 4 of them happening at once, around this island, in addition to ecstatic dance, cacao ceremonies, like all those things. It's like the scene for that, with people coming from all around the world. Really interesting melting pot of people. And they had ecstatic dance there multiple times a week. One of those dances was in a pyramid in the middle of a jungle.
Wow. Hey, and just for the listeners not familiar, you want to tell them what ecstatic dance is?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So ecstatic dance, what is ecstatic dance? It's an opportunity for people to come together and dance in a nonverbal space. And it usually follows a format of some sort of arc of a wave of intensity. So you start off really slow movements and it builds up, builds up, builds up. Usually at the peak, there's some sort of electronic music thing that's like, and everybody's like dancing around, going crazy, sweats flying, and it comes down the other side. And a lot of times people end up laying on the ground at the end in really peaceful music. And the idea is just to be really embodied and out of your head, just to get into your animalistic self and to be with whatever comes up. So crying is encouraged, screaming is encouraged, as long as you're not in somebody's face doing it to them. Like as long as you're in your own process and aware of what you're doing. So it's this really beautiful experience. And on this island, they have multiple of them each week, and hundreds of people show up to these things, you know? So imagine you're at this ecstatic dance in the jungle in a pyramid, a screened in pyramid, and there's hundreds of people there. And I see this guy, and there's this guy dancing with a woman, and they're dancing super sexually. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like that looks fun. And I find her really attractive. Shortly thereafter, I see him dancing with another really attractive woman in this really sexual way. And I immediately was triggered. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, like, is he some sort of sexual predator? Do I need to be watching out for him? Like, what's happening? You know? And I noticed that it happens again. And I'm like, this guy's bad. This guy's bad news. But then I notice also that all these women are really enjoying dancing with him. You know, they're fully in it, and they're smiling, and they don't even seem trapped at all. They're in the experience. And so I realized, like, oh, I'm triggered because I want that, you know, I want that experience. And this guy, his name is Lion. I ended up actually doing an interview with him on this podcast as well. So you can check it out. It's all about embodiment. But I met him, and he ended up being somebody who was teaching a workshop on that island around dance. And it was kind of like a dance play party sort of a thing. It was an opportunity to explore sex and dance. And I thought, okay, I'm triggered by this guy, but also I want to learn from him. I want to see what I can learn from him. I'm sure there's something valuable I can gain from this experience of going to this workshop. And so I went. By the way, side note, I think it's a useful thing to realize, like, we can learn from people even if we don't agree with everything that they say, or we don't agree with how they show up everywhere. And that's a practice that I try to do or live by. So went to this workshop, and as soon as I get in there, I do the thing that I've done many times, which is scanning the room. Oh, who's attractive here? Who do I want to dance with? Who do I want to explore sexy dancing with? You know, notice a few people, like, all right, cool. Like, there's some people I'm attracted to here. Great. And he's guiding us through these processes to start off the dance, just slow moving by ourselves, getting into our bodies, shaking our shoulders, shaking our hips, doing just normal basic dance embodiment warm-up stuff. And he has us walk around the room, and then he has us pay attention to the people that we're attracted to and to notice them, not stare at them, but make a note of them in our minds while we're moving through the room. Like, start to pay attention to your attraction. Start to notice what that feels like in your body. You know, are you making plans? Are you making ideas of how you want to approach them? This sort of thing, you know, which most of us do in contexts like that. And then he had us just continue to dance by ourselves. And at one point, he had us stop, physically freeze our bodies on the dance floor. And he had us stay there for a moment in stillness to notice all the sensations that we were feeling in our bodies. And then he asked us to pay attention to our attraction again, you know, and then to see if we could intentionally let that go, like shake it out of your body a little bit, you know, come back to yourself, come back to your body, come back to your breath. And we all took a breath. And then while we were still frozen in this state, he asked us to close our eyes and imagine that we were dancing, and try to feel that we're dancing as if we were an energetic body dancing outside of our physical body, just for the sake of imagination, to see if we could do it, just for the practice of attuning our awareness to the subtle layers of things that were happening. And so I stayed there perfectly still, and I started to imagine myself dancing. And I'm doing it right now with my eyes closed as I'm telling this story, and I'm feeling myself sway to the left and to the right. And if you're listening right now, I invite you to try it too. Just keep your body still, as long as you're not driving or walking, and see if you can imagine yourself dancing in different directions. And what you might notice is there's actually something there. There are actually feelings to be felt in that imaginative experience. And some people would call this your energy body. Whether or not you want to believe that is up to you. But what you can probably experience is that there are some sensations there that are real when you start to pay attention to that level.
I just closed my eyes as you did it, and I went, oh, well, there's like a wave in there. that's going kind of back and forth, and I can move it a little bit.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So from that place of awareness, when we were, paying attention to that wave, paying attention to that, he said, now allow yourself to begin to move throughout the room, guided by that wave and not by your physical body. And move only when that wave pulls your physical body in a particular direction. So slowly we started to move throughout the room, guided by this energetic pull of our energy body dancing. And I'm just going to use that term for the sake of the ease of this story. Our energetic body. I started to move around the room guided by my energetic body. And it was a really cool exploration that felt slow and sensual and deep and powerful too. And then he had us notice, okay, while you're moving through the room, notice who your energetic body is feeling drawn to. Your energetic body has a different level of attraction than your physical body. And so even if you come into close contact with or step in front of somebody who you were physically attracted to or who you thought you were attracted to, pay attention to the deeper levels of what's going on there. Pay attention to your energetic body. Pay attention to that part of you that's moving subtly underneath everything to see if you actually really want to dance with these people. And then if your energetic body feels a pull, then sure, go dance with them, start to explore. But if not, don't do it just because you think they're hot, And so it was a really fascinating experience for me because I made my way around the room, and then this woman and I, who I thought she was really attractive, and I'm just going to use the stereotypical term hot, I was like, oh, she's hot. And we stood right across from each other, and I'm looking at this physically gorgeous person, and there's zero energetic charge there. And I'm like, holy shit, there's no draw in me whatsoever to dance with this woman at all. And so rather than thinking about it, I just moved on. It's like, okay, I'm going to listen. I moved around the room some more, came into contact with another woman who I thought was attractive, noticed that there wasn't really a charge there either. And meanwhile, some people are starting to connect on the dance floor in physical bodies, but still while paying attention to this energetic level. And then I come around this corner, you could say, of the people on the dance floor. And there's this older woman in there, the oldest woman in the room. I don't know how old she was, late 60s, early mid 70s, something like that. And I noticed that my energy body just felt very drawn to her. There was this gravitational force that was pulling me towards her. And we made eye contact, and I could tell that she was feeling that way too. And this is somebody who I would never find physically attractive in that way. But do
you want to tell us what she looked like?
I mean,
put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, she was just an older lady. In my mind, I had put her into the category of borderline elderly woman, elder category, well outside of the realm of sexual possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we start moving towards each other, and I'm like, well, whatever. I'm going to listen. This is why I'm here. I'm not here to touch the hot person. I'm here to learn about the energy body and to learn about these deeper energetic levels of attraction. And so on this dance floor, this older woman and I, we start to dance together in our physical bodies, guided by our energy bodies. And we start to have this really sexy dance, and we're all up on each other, breathing, smelling each other, grinding on each other. She's pushing her hips and her ass back into my pelvis, and we're doing thrusting, animalistic fucking grinding motions on the dance floor, and I'm starting to get aroused with this woman. And this is invited, just for clarity, this is invited in the space, and it's all talked about. Boundaries are talked about up front. So this is a safe experience to explore this kind of stuff in this particular container, because we're all there for that purpose.
Were sounds welcome also?
Sounds were welcome.
Were you making sounds?
Yeah.
What'd they sound like?
What do they sound like? So I was there, and I remember just grinding with her, and like that, oh, and just like getting into it. And she was making her moans too, and like running her hands over my body and down my face. And we didn't kiss or make out or anything like that, but we did rub our lips over each other in that sort of like really hot, sensual kind of way. And I loved the experience. It was fascinating. And
what was your mind doing while this was happening? What was your mind thinking? Was it there? What was going on there?
Yeah, I was really practicing trying to not let my mind be a part of the experience and just be really present with my energy body and be present with the body and be present with that experience. A few times it zoomed out and was like, fuck, holy shit, Taylor. Did you ever think you'd be in this kind of experience? Like, did you ever imagine you'd be grinding with your potential grandmother? No. No, but there I was in this experience, and it was super erotic, and it was safe, and it was beautiful. And I learned it was a huge learning experience for me about, like, what is sexual attraction? What is energetic attraction? And what do I have to do with that? Like, does it need to lead towards actual physical, penetrative, genitally focused sex? No, absolutely not. But for all intents and purposes, this woman and I, we had sex on the dance floor. We basically, that dance experience was far more erotic and connective than a vast number of actual penetrative sex experiences that I've had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to rack my mind of like, oh, when have I felt or even would allow myself to feel that towards a woman many years older than me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rarely.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely. I mean, I certainly don't do it in my everyday life, and nor like do I have that desire ultimately. Like I like feeling the physical sexual attraction to people. But what's really interesting to me is how few people there is an alignment with both physical attraction and that deeper underlying energetic attraction. That is rare. That is rare. And when it happens, it's magical. It's absolutely magical when that happens. But I think this discrepancy, or when that doesn't happen, is the source of a lot of hardship and turmoil in relationships that start, because people don't think about, and I didn't used to think about this. I used to get into a relationship with somebody because, I liked them. I like who they stand for. And I think they're hot. Not like really tuning into the deeper levels of what's going on there. Sure. Most people can probably relate to that on some level, on some level. And so throughout the rest of that dance workshop there, like this woman and I had our dance, and then a number of songs went on, and then I moved on, and I ended up having this other dance experience with this guy, and my energetic body was drawn to this guy. And for everyone listening, just for the record, I am heterosexual. I've never had penetrative sex with a guy. I'm like super attracted to women. And in this moment, my energy body was drawn to go to explore with this guy, like move past the hot women and go dance with this guy. And so I did. And it was a different quality of dance that I experienced with him, but it was a really, really cool, just embodied, almost like a wrestly kind of dance connection, where we got to really explore. This was a strong guy. And we got to explore like being in strong bodies together and like grabbing each other's arms and jumping away from each other while holding on, using our strength to keep ourselves connected, and playing with our body weight and rolling on each other and lifting each other up, and having this really cool kind of like almost a warrior style vibe of brotherly love connection dance that was sensual, but not sexual, and it was a really beautiful experience for me too, because touch with men is rare, and for the majority of my previous life, like it meant bad, scary things, or like, oh, if I touch a man, that means I'm gay. If I hug a man for too long, that means I'm gay, or that means X, Y, and Z, or I like him, or he likes me, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this was in the phases of my journey of opening myself up to vulnerability and connection. And turns out like being able to be physical with men in non-sexual ways is deeply nurturing and nourishing and revitalizing in a way that dancing with a woman could never be, and there's like a beautiful, powerful safety there that feels really fucking good.
I remember reading a science fiction story where one person goes to another and says, hey, you want to have sex with me? And the other person says like, no, you're a man. And that person's from the past and they're in the future. And that person responds, like body type is a thing still. Oh yeah, that was when body type like mattered. And it sounds like you transcended that for a little bit and just went to our cores, our souls, what have you.
To a point. Yeah. And it would not have escalated to sex, like actual physical sex between us, but it was interesting to explore that energetic connection and that energetic attraction energetic attraction doesn't mean sex. Energetic attraction doesn't mean I need to put my penis inside you or I need to lick you or you need to lick me or something like that. It might mean we just have something we can learn from each other. It might mean we need to collaborate on something or life wants us to build something together. Attraction doesn't always mean sex. And this was a big learning experience of that phase of my life also. And taking a step back and starting to notice where those threads of energetic attraction were in my life to different people, men, women, elderly people, younger people, because it almost always meant that there was something useful that would come from our connection just as humans. Even maybe that would be as simple as having a conversation at a coffee shop and both realizing that we were able to share a really useful resource with the other person, or maybe make an introduction to them, like introduce them to another person that we were close to that really catalyzed something big in their life in some way. And so it's been a really cool process of listening to that deeper layer of what's going on.
Wow. It's as I go in there going, oh, would I get into that situation? I imagine some listeners are going like, oh, I wouldn't dance with a man or I wouldn't dance with an older woman.
Yeah.
And hearing about your experience, it's hard to imagine myself in that situation, knowing my patterns of classic heterosexual male.
Totally.
Yeah. So, but it sounds like there's also this benefit of taking down walls of separation between people and finding other avenues of connection through not focusing on what people look like, but the energy between y'all.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what would you say to men who aren't going to go to Thailand and do a workshop like this?
Yeah.
If they wanted to explore something like this, where to start or ideas about it or anything like that?
Yeah. That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I heard also at the start when you mentioned, say, hey, close your eyes and first just try and feel those lines.
Yeah.
And maybe to go to an ecstatic dance in your own town.
Yeah.
And just experiment yourself. But anything else to say about that?
Yeah. Well, so two things come up. One, sex with a partner. And then, so I'll go into that. Well, actually, no, I'll go into the, how can you explore this way first? A really cool way to explore this without necessarily pushing your edges too far, excuse me, would be to go to a partner dance class. Go to a salsa class or a tango class or a zouk class or something like that. Because in a lot of those classes, you're going to rotate between different people and you're not going to be attracted to most of them, but you're going to get to have an opportunity to dance with all of them. And it's this really cool way of noticing how different people's bodies interact together, but also noticing how the different like energetic attractions exist or don't exist. And you'll probably find that with some people who you think are really physically attractive, there's no energetic charge at all. And maybe you have some people who you don't find physically attractive and there's a strong energetic attraction. And if you find somebody who you are really physically attracted to and there's an energetic attraction, then ask them out on a date, mm-hmm. Like pay attention to that, mm-hmm. Pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've been taking some more partner dance classes lately and I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's a really cool way to explore that realm. And I also wanted to say, like, if you are in a romantic relationship or a partnership, a really cool exercise to do to begin to explore these things is next time you're going to have sex with your partner, you definitely want to talk about this beforehand, but maybe you both listen to this episode together and agree to try this. So you can lay in bed, and sometimes it can help to start with your eyes closed, like lay together and start to do that same experiment that we did on the dance floor. Just start to move your energetic body or just imagine moving your body without moving your physical body. And both of you start doing that together and then allow that to lead the sexual experience. Allow that to lead the sexual experience versus going into the typical sexual patterns that you normally go into and that we all do. We all are creatures of habit. We all default to our sexual norms, But I think you'll be really surprised at the magic that you'll discover if you start from that slow place of deep listening. And that doesn't mean you can't get into the wild realms of animalistic fucking and like going down on each other and like, spanking and slapping. But it just means listen on a deep level to where your systems want to go versus directing it with your mind or your physical body, just as an experiment to see what happens.
Sounds good. I'm going to ask my partner to try that tonight.
Oh, great. Yeah, we're going to a party tonight there where I might be able to watch that. What do you say?
we can only hope, right?
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. So it was a really interesting experience, and I'm grateful for that experience because it informed, just how I pay attention to that level going forward. And I think I would be hard pressed to try, if I had never had that experience. What would I say? Like the ability to go to that workshop really allowed me to feel safe enough to explore those things. And I think ecstatic dance is a great way to explore those things too, within a certain degree. Like you're not going to be able to grind to that extent and like bite each other and smell each other in that same animalistic way because it's not the appropriate, event for that sort of thing. But you can still dance with people and explore like physical touch and explore the different kinds of energetic attraction you have with people. Like we go to ecstatic dance here often, almost every week. And like we've danced together before and it's really sweet. And it's just always an interesting exploration.
Yeah, it's really fun to check out each other's energies. And I know this is some of it, this might seem like an endorsement for ecstatic dance. It's just because we both love it. And it's a free space to just move your body and feel what we are.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, great story. Really, man. And quite a twist and quite a turn. And it's always good to hear what you've been up to and some of the adventures you went on in your quest to understand your sexuality in a deeper way.
Yeah. Thanks for being here for it. Oh, there, that one last little piece I realized. So after I had that dance with that man, I did end up circling back around, and there was a woman there who I hadn't originally like pinned as like, you're the most, like you're on the top of my list, but there was some physical attraction there. And then I think through the experience of opening ourselves up, we realized that there was actually like an energetic pull to go towards each other. And that was cool too. Because there was almost, I think honestly, there was probably part of me too that was maybe a little bit pushing back on the physical attraction thing just to pay attention to it. But when I softened and really opened to that realm, I realized, oh, there's this person who I feel physical attraction for and energetic attraction. And we had a really sweet, sexy dance. And then a few weeks later, we became actual physical lovers, and there was a beautiful connection there. But it was cool to like establish that first on the dance floor and realize, oh, this exists on both levels. So then when we met up on the beach, a week later, like that foundation was already there in some way. Check. All right. So thank you all for listening to this episode. Thank you again, John, for being here. If anything in this episode stuck out for you, like shoot me a message. Let me know if it hit you, if it impacted you in some way. I'd love to hear. And take a screenshot of this episode, share it on Instagram if you want. Please tag me if you do. I will say thank you. And with that, I'll say cheers to your success, to your pleasure, and I will see you in the next episode.